So Nathan Buckley rules himself out, and Alastair Clarkson, on the day the first job becomes available, Sam, rules himself absolutely in and reshapes the market, doesn't he? With lots of probably people looking half over their shoulder. This merry-go-round could get really hot really quickly.
Yeah, well, it's exactly why, Kane, we started speaking. You can see the merry-go-round there. Leon Cameron obviously out. It's why we started speaking about Ken Hinkley when they were 0-5. Is which club was going to put themselves in the strongest position by announcing themselves as we have a vacancy, we have an availability. And, there's no doubt. I don't personally think Alastair Clarkson's going to coach GWS next year, but they'll have to have a conversation.
Who do you think he'll coach?
I personally think they'll go for a first-time coach.
No, but who do you think Alastair Clarkson will coach?
Gold Coast Suns.
Wow. History says it puts... if coaches go in waves, clubs start to reassess based upon the availability of the market. And history says it goes in numbers, doesn't it? You can go 1, 2, 3 years with barely any change, and then it can be 5 or 6 at a time. It has that type of feeling as a year, doesn't it?
Do you think Clarko will coach next year?
Yep, absolutely.
And do you think he should? Is he the right person to take a club to its next phase?
Not for every club. Not for every club.
I'm with that too, Hutchie. I think some clubs won't feel that he's the right person for them. I think that, again, you've got to look at what you're going to lose, and I've spoken about this a little bit with development coaches and what he would demand as a coach. It will cost you some other coaches with the soft cap.
He's crash or crash through. You said on Friday that you could pick 15 clubs. Well, that's absurd.
No. Well, I think. What do you mean? He could pick 15.
Yeah, he could nominate.
No, I don't think.
Right down to the Swans.
I don't think a rebuilding team is right for Alastair Clarkson. For the conversation we just had with Sam Mitchell about their list, he decimated that Hawthorn list because he doesn't believe in the draft. So I would not like to see him go to North Melbourne and then not want to go to the draft because he doesn't believe in the draft. The history is there with Hawthorn. The shape that he left the club in terms of their list is poor, and he didn't win a final in his last 6 years. So I personally don't believe him that he's right for a developing club.
You mentioned the Gold Coast Suns. That gets more intriguing as the resume of the Suns builds. Campbell Brown had this to say on the Sunday Footy Show yesterday.
Alastair Clarkson is waiting in the wings, isn't he? And Dewey's a former premiership teammate of mine. He's done a pretty good job. But if Steve Jobs wants your job at a tech company, I'm pretty sure there'd be no board that'd knock him back.
He has a great respect for Clarkson and what he's done. He played in the premiership underneath him. But what I do like is the pressure that I think Ken Hinkley and Stuart Dew are putting back on their clubs. I think the response of Port Adelaide the last 4 weeks, he's an established coach, Kane. I'm not sure where that sits with how he's travelling. And Stewie Dew, I've never been sold on them. I've been as hard as them on anyone. But it's been a great fortnight. And they can go to Ballarat and beat the Dogs. They are 3 big scalps. And you just wonder, do we stick with what we've got?
Does a final spot preserve the threat?
I think,
or is he vulnerable regardless?
If Stewie Dew makes the finals with that Gold Coast team,
that's enough for him.
Absolutely.
If Alastair Clarkson says, the Gold Coast Suns are the club I want to coach, does that override anything Stuart Dew can do this year?
I don't think the Clarkson decision is September either, is it? It's July or August.
Feels like
absolutely. And it becomes a cash decision as well, as the great Lee Matthews enunciated on the weekend.
One of the things that has been bobbling around for the last 6 months in the footy world is that the AFL really want to get the Suns going so that Alastair Clarkson, he might take over the Suns, he might get his $1 million, which is one thing, but he also might get $1 million odd as an ambassadorial role. So a $2 million payday to go and coach the Suns. Now I think to myself, surely the AFL couldn't do that.
Well, that has long been the cynical view held behind closed doors, particularly in the media and other clubs, Hutchie, is that the AFL would come with their bags of cash.
Well, that will happen.
And that would help. Well, Gillan McLachlan confirmed to Neil Mitchell on Friday that they will not be doing that. So he's on the record now. They can't go back on it.
So that doesn't happen for players like Ben King to keep them at the club?
No, but that's different from the AFL helping a team pay a coach outside of stop cap.
There's a million ways to support the role without...
No, but we've gone so far past the Chris Judd Vizzy deal, Hutchie. Gillan is on the record. That's it. That's the end of it.
I think it's absolutely reasonable that the AFL would contribute to that role.
How's that fair for
you? We can have 17 other clubs pulling out that audio from Neil Mitchell's show if that happens.
But it doesn't mean anything. It's going to happen regardless, right?
What do you mean? The AFL chief executive is on the record. Saying he's going to go against that.
But there's a greater good in making the game great in these areas of the country where we need it to... it's not just about win-loss in these areas.
It's becoming about win-loss.
Sorry, it's not just about level playing. It's about supporting the markets and the regions and the territories.
I know we're going on a break, but David Noble in North Melbourne, the Alastair Clarkson, former Roo, could you ever see that happening? Or is not the job he'd want to take?
No, I think it'll be a Gold Coast.
It's a hard pitch for North, isn't it? Yep.